Pastor, before you go into the third stage here, can you just help our viewers understand, because I don't think they understand, even though this was, the first 8 years, making that transition, the type of impact you had, not just in Ukraine as a nation, but all over the world. Can you give us some statistics of the number of people that were being impacted just per day? And you're talking about an impact. It wasn't with crusades or conferences in town. These were just daily impacts that were being made by the God Embassy Church. Can you tell our viewers, give us some statistics, please?
That was on the second stage.
Yes, sir.
Before now.
Yes, before this.
The second, when we began to preach that gospel of the kingdom, our church was influencing regularly, touching on a regular basis within the year 2.5 million people.
Wow.
So as a local church, not just one church, but all our churches were working with them regularly. We had 700 churches in the Ukraine, worldwide and Ukraine as well. And then we had 100,000 people here in Ukraine. Then that was what really the hallmark of that period of our life was that it brought me, the gospel of the kingdom exposed me to the body of Christ, because not too many people preach the gospel of the kingdom. God used me to be one of the real pioneers that really blew the trumpet to the body of Christ. And so because of that, I was invited to, because I realized, I knew that the gospel needed to go to all groups of people, all nations, in any nation. So including politics, which is part of the 7 spheres of influence of life. So I began to speak to politicians, both here, affect them here, and then God began to, you opened the door for me to go to minister to politicians, business people, just all kinds of people. That was what led me to ministering and speaking at the UN, not once, two times. That's what led me to speaking at the United States Senate, Japanese Parliament.
Different head of state.
Yeah, meeting different head of states, speaking at Israeli Parliament, and just all over in Aruba and places like that, Nigeria, and so that was the effect of that was enormous. We started doing Bible schools called the Stream Makers Bible School in America, Europe, different places where we began to really. Pastor of God was doing great, and that at that point, that was a unique church to most people in the world. We began to raise up millionaires, and we began to do things that most churches had not seen, and most churches definitely were not doing. So it was you could have relaxed on your laurels after that, but I think I was getting used to that, and I was getting ready. I had begun to think that was the height of ministry when by God's grace and mercy, He allowed some horrible persecution against us here. Persecution based on false allegations, false accusations, and all kinds of lies, and which also grounded me in the country, which didn't allow me to move out much, and so I was, I have to, up to now, that was 2.5 years ago almost, so I have to stay in the country, and while in the country, I began to seek the face of the Lord. Why would God allow that kind of attack, especially when it's not just, especially when things are not true? How can, I had survived all kinds of attacks before then, you must know. I was used to fighting. Yeah. I was used to battle. I was battle-tried. But this time, it was a different kind of trial. It was a different kind of battle. I like persecution myself. I like being persecuted. But I like being persecuted for the things of God. Yeah. I like being persecuted for telling me, accusing me that I was turning the country upside down, and that I was changing the mindset of the people. I was changing the structure of the nation for Jesus. That was the kind of persecution I was used to. But I was not used to the persecution that will take something from nowhere and make it seem as if you are to blame. that is false accusation, and accusing you and making it so public, so worldwide, put so much in using the power of the press to make people, sometimes even you almost believing that is it really happening? Maybe it's true what they are saying, even though you knew it's not true. But when everybody began to talk about it so much that you begin to wonder, maybe it's true. What's really happening? I mean, it's so. I've fought all kind of fights, but I've now come to discover that false accusation. It's just like saying you didn't sleep with somebody's ex-wife, but the lady came out and said you did it. The husband came out and said you did it. Now I began to understand what Joseph went through. And then they put you in, then you are being punished for what you, it is at the point of when you are being punished for what you never did, that you begin to realize that this is horrible. I mean, I would have taken it very lightly. I wouldn't have even spoken about it if they had said, we are punishing you, not for whatever accusation they are bringing out, but for the gospel. Oh, I would have loved it. Oh, because that is prestigious. That makes it like looks like that I'm really suffering for God. But here it's so well disguised that they are really bringing out facts, false facts, lies, and saying this is what happened. And so they are saying this is not gospel. So they are really differentiating and separating it from the gospel and religion. This is not religion. We are not touching his faith. This is what he did. And when everybody began to believe that, and then you begin to suffer for that. Whereas nobody seems to know if it is really true or not. But you are the only one who knows it's not true. And everybody else thinks it's true. And then you have been punished for it already. But where the crisis begins is not even there. The crisis begins when you begin to think, wait a minute, where is God? But you know the truth. Let's assume that all these people don't know the truth. Let's assume that they are really deceived. But you know the truth. And you know that I'm trying to serve you. And I'm doing my best at doing that. But where were you? You could make this clear, and then it's not making it clear. So that is when I now discover that whenever you pray, and you bind the Satan, and you bind the devil, and you curse Satan, and then the problem is not being resolved, then you must know that it's time for you to begin to call on God to talk to you, to begin to listen to God. So that was what I did the first year. I just needed to hear what was going on and what God wanted to bring out of it. I have a favorite prayer that I always pray whenever I have challenges. And that prayer is, God, never answer this, never really remove this problem until I'm changed or until you have accomplished the purpose for which you in the first place allowed it to come. But that sounds like a dangerous prayer.